This is Mongo Slade, and let's talk about NXT War Games, which was a very solid show. It was very enjoyable. Let's get right into it with the women's War Games match. I took a lot of notes. Because there was a lot to talk about. So they did the weird thing where the baby faces had the man advantage. So it was a question of how do you get around that. But let's start it from the beginning. Shotzi has a new tank, which is a little bit more detailed. It's bigger. It always looked like she was a child in the other tank. I know some people are like, why she have to have a tank in the first place? Look, people have to have gimmicks. So she had this bigger, more detailed tank, and it shot some type of thing. I don't know. It was like they said it was a missile, but I sincerely thought it was a missile. It couldn't get through that fence because she shot it at Dakota Kai, who was in the ring. I was like, what in the hell? It took me by surprise. But it was, young Dakota was just fine. So Ember Moon started for her team, and Dakota Kai started for Candice LeRae's team. They did some pretty good stuff. These two women were the workhorses. They did a lot of pretty cool counters. A lot of their offense was kind of choreographed, which is kind of like the Ember Moon style because she was on the Indies for so long. But it was still pretty good. It didn't look completely like shit. It was just like kind of slow, choreographed stuff. It's been a year since Dakota Kai's brilliant heel turn on Tegan Knox 2019. It was really good. That was awesome. That was an awesome War Games situation when she turned heel. Okay, so in the match, Dakota Kai used the Kawada kicks, which are, if you hold the head down, you kick repeatedly in the head. Those things almost always look like shit. Whenever anybody does them, I have never seen anybody do it quite like he does it. Most people, because most people try to do things light. They try not to kill each other, obviously. But I know that her kicking is sort of her thing, is Dakota Kai's thing. Like, they called her, captain of Team Kick or something like that. So Shotzi Blackheart came out second. She brought in some weapons, which was basically just threw a toolbox in the ring. Even though she never used it. She just went straight into the fight and beat the hell out of Dakota Kai. And Ember Moon disappeared for 2 minutes, which kept happening in this match. People kept disappearing. Folks were just disappearing, I guess they were taking a nap. Raquel Gonzalez came in next for her team. They did use the man advantage in a good way here because Raquel Gonzalez got to come in and basically fight two people by herself. So she got to fight Shotzi and Ember Moon, basically fight them both off. She did her little big show spot. She threw them both out over the place. She got to throw them all, body slam them, choke slam them, all type of stuff. She got to do all type of crazy stuff. She really got put over in this match. Raquel Gonzalez, that was the story of the match. They really kind of wanted to cement that Raquel Gonzalez is a serious deal. The fact that she got the pinfall, we'll get to that in a minute, but the fact that she got the pinfall in this match actually was, a big deal. So, Rhea Ripley came in third for Team Blackheart. She went straight for Gonzalez, which made sense. She ended up hitting Dakota Kai with the hammers, like a sledgehammer or a ball peen hammer or something that was in the box. It was kind of crazy. Toni Storm, our cherry-lipped Pog goddess, she came in for her team, and she brought some kendo sticks with her. She also exposed the turnbuckle, which I thought was pretty interesting because it's very rare that people think of simple things like that in a match like this, where there's tables and chairs and ladders and people have various weapons. Something as simple as removing a turnbuckle kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. So she was able to do that, and that was pretty cool. It actually became useful. It didn't factor into the finish or anything, but it was pretty cool. So Io Shirai came in last for her team. And then we know all of the trickery starts. Now they're playing goalie because the babyfaces have the advantage. So all of the heels decided to play goalie. Like Raquel Gonzalez is at the door, keeping Io Shirai from getting in. Like she's kicking her and shutting the door. And then basically it played keep away from Io Shirai for 3 minutes because that's the length of time before the next entrant. So once the time is up and Candice LeRae can get in, then Indy Hartwell comes in and knocks her down. And they put everything in there. Well, I think Io Shirai had already put the ladder in the ring. and then they locked Io Shirai out. Of course, it made no sense because Indy Hartwell then, after she locked Io Shirai out, she put the key down her shirt and then disappeared. I don't. Maybe it was because maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I have no idea where she went. So it was a while where the heels had the 4-3 advantage inside the cage, and they were taking full advantage, beating the hell out of the baby faces, which is pretty cool. They found a way to turn the tables. Very creative. Still don't like the idea that the baby faces had the man advantage, but at least they turned it around. They flipped it, so that was nice. And then Io Shirai found a way to get in by climbing the top of the cage. Again, I don't know where Indy Hartwell went. She was outside the ring. How did she get past her? And then she had a garbage can that she put herself in because Io Shirai is very small. And then she dove from the top of the cage in a garbage in a garbage pail. It was some of the silliest shit. It was silly as hell. But now the match could officially start. It was interesting though. It was a little too much. But somebody has to make the jump, and it's going to be Io Shirai because that's what she does. There was one spot in this match I didn't like. Candice LeRae had Ember Moon in the Gargano escape, which is a crossface. Instead of breaking up the submission, you had Shotzi Blackheart put Toni Storm in a cattle mutilation, and they're sitting right next to each other. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is stupid. I hate when people do this. It's this idea that, oh, well, you got my partner in a submission, or I'm gonna put your partner in a submission. Like, no, stop your partner from being in a submission. That's stupid. Stop that. Cut it out. That should be common sense. If you should be concerned about your partner, right? I mean, that's common sense. So Dakota Kai used a double stomp from the top rope while Io Shirai was inside of a garbage can. How she got in that garbage can again, I think Dakota Kai put her in it, but she put her in the garbage can again. It was a pretty brutal spot too, because I think there was a little time there where people were kind of concerned about whether Io Shirai is going to be able to continue. Then there was another cool spot where Ember Moon used the Eclipse across 2 chairs, which should have been like a finish. That should have been the finish, if we're being honest. I have a hard time with the Eclipse. I really don't like it. But when they used it in that way, I was like, oh, that should be a hospital spot, because that's like her throat and neck and stuff like that. That should be it. But no, wasn't the finish. Wasn't the finish at all. Shotzi Blackheart used a senton from the top of the ladder. Shotzi Blackheart is basically, I don't know what the hell. She's one of them Daredevil types. But she leapt from the top of the ladder. Candice LeRae put a chair up. So even though she nailed the senton, she also hit the chair, which explains why she couldn't pin, because she was too busy selling. The finish came in with Io Shirai trying to, I guess, do maybe a moonsault or something. And Raquel Gonzalez grabbed her and chokeslammed her through the ladder and pinned her, which was badass. That was a cool fucking spot. Now, it was a little excessive. This match was, they did a lot of stuff. But this finish was worth it. Because Raquel Gonzalez, this is the first pin that Io Shirai has eaten in a long time. She rarely gets beat. Rarely gets pinned. But she got pinned this time. This should cement Raquel Gonzalez as the number 1 contender. So I think that's generally a good idea for Raquel Gonzalez to go. I don't think she is the one who lost the ladder match, but because she beat Io Shirai, who was the champion, and Io Shirai had not been beaten in a long time, it makes sense for her to be a top contender now. This is typical Shotzi Blackheart in fact that she gets a high spotlight, but ends up losing. They love Shotzi Blackheart, but they don't love her that much. She very rarely wins. Okay, let's talk about the North American Championship match, since I got it listed in this spot. So Leon Ruff defends the North American Championship against Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest. And Johnny Gargano won the title back, which made me physically ill. I wanted to throw the fuck up. I wanted to puke because Johnny Gargano won this match again. But we'll get there. let's talk about some of the spots. So Leon Ruff was wearing the title like a sash, which is absolutely silly. It's absolutely silly. Like, we know he's skinny, but that was silly as hell. I like the story in this match that Damian Priest didn't really want to fight Leon Ruff. That he was actually looking for reasons to get, to basically asking him, in some cases even begging him to get the hell out the way. Stop trying to, interfere in the match. Basically telling him to stop trying to be the champion. Just move out the way. Let whatever happen gonna happen. And Ruff kept fighting back. He stood up. He wanted to be himself. He wanted to be the champion. He wanted to be the man. And it was cool, in so much as these things, made sense. It was basically the story that they were telling building up to this match. So then you had Ruff and Gargano actually working together on Damian Priest as he fought off both of them, which really, he did some really cool stuff, like he was throwing them into each other, basically showing how dominant he should be against these two goddamn shrimps. But for some reason, we have to, the idea of Damian Priest losing to these guys, man. Well, losing to this guy. So I like the idea of Johnny Gargano trying to be a mad scientist, sort of like a Sami Zayn. He kept trying to find different ways of isolating Leon Ruff. But my favorite part though is that after they was outside the ring, and Priest told Ruff, "Stay out of my way. This is your last warning." And then Ruff just hauled off and punched him, like, boom, fuck you. And then Damian Priest razor's edged him through the barricade, which should have been the finish. Like, that should have been it. Like, he should have been gone. And they showed three multi-layers of Damian Priest. Like, after he did it, after he razor's edged him through the barricade, he was kind of apologetic. He kind of felt bad for him. Like, dang, I didn't even mean to do that to him. But heroically, Leon Ruff came back 2 or 3 minutes later to defend his title. But as I was saying about Johnny Gargano, is he tried to isolate Leon Ruff because he believed that he could beat Leon Ruff. So he tied Damian Priest up in the ropes and then put Leon Ruff in the Gargano escape. Priest got out of that just in time to save him from tapping out. And then it turns into WCW 1992. You don't know what I mean? What I mean is there was a run-in with a bunch of people in masks. Like 8 people in masks showed up. They kept interfering. Damian Priest was fighting all these guys off. He's jumping over the top rope on them, doing planchas and all type of stuff to fight these guys off. This was 100% WCW shit. Like, have you ever seen any old WCW pay-per-views where there's 100 Stings come out of nowhere? It's like a bunch of guys dressed like Sting at like a Halloween Havoc or something like that. And then but I think it was Super Brawl or Starrcade or something like that, where there was like 45 Black Scorpions that came out of nowhere. Like, of course, one of them was Ric Flair, who was the guy that Sting was actually wrestling. But then there was 100 other Black Scorpions. Like, that is so frustrating. It's so stupid. I guess Triple H is still brainwashed from his time in WCW. You don't need that many imposters. Like, I hated the finish to this match. I absolutely hated the finish to this match. Because out of all of those ghost faces, there's still another one left. After he fought off like 8 of them, there's another one. And this guy hits Damian the Priest in the back with a pipe. And Damian Priest slumps, falls out of the ring. And then Johnny Gargano manages to pin Leon Ruff with one final beat and wins the North American Championship for the 3rd time. So now you have to ask the question, what the hell? Well, the Ghostface was Austin Theory, which I kind of guessed it would be. How did I guess it would be? Because once Indy Hartwell became the protege for Candice LeRae, I said, well, somebody's got to be the protege for Johnny Gargano. And I believed they had interacted before, where Johnny Gargano told Austin Theory that he was getting kind of uppity or something like that. He was trying to teach him a lesson, and then they had that match. I believe it was on NXT TV, and he beat Austin Theory, and then Austin Theory started getting on a losing streak, and then he disappeared for a long time after he quit. I kind of figured it was going to be Austin Theory. So I know there's going to be a lot of people upset because Austin Theory, oh, he's a pedophile, oh, he did this, he did that. Guy's 21. Power through it. That's just my attention. Unless you actually have some evidence, you actually record, arresting him or something, power through it. But what do we do with Damian Priest? Okay, now we got Johnny Gargano. He's got a protege. His wife has a protege. They're both winners. They both won. So now what do we do with Leon Ruff? What is Leon Ruff's future? He was North American champion for a couple of weeks. Now, he goes back to being a jobber. What do we do with this guy? What do we do with Damian Priest? He can't keep chasing this same title. Can't keep chasing Johnny Gargano. Now, later we've seen that Karrion Kross is actually returning. Karrion Kross is coming back. Okay, cool. We're gonna all suggest that Karrion Kross goes right back to his title, right? Right back to being the NXT champion. So what do we do with Damian Priest? Do we take him out of NXT? He really should be taken out of NXT. But take him out in the beginning of December and do what with him? There's nowhere for him to go. I mean, you got storylines for every title except the US title, or in these tag team championships on Raw and SmackDown. You have nowhere to put them. Like, you don't even have anywhere to put some of the guys that are already on Raw or SmackDown. So what do? You take Damian Priest off TV? Or do you take the risk and you say, well, Karrion Kross isn't ready yet. You bump Damian Priest up to fight Finn Balor. Now, I would prefer that. I would like that as a response. But what we got to do first, of course, is deal with Damian Priest and Austin Theory. Because I believe Damian Priest was one of those opponents that beat Austin Theory when he was on a losing streak. I don't like that. But I mean, it just feels like a waste of Damian Priest's time. This guy's already like 35. Why are we still dragging our fucking feet on this thing? The guy has it, okay? We need to just try to find a way to factor him into the Royal Rumble. Now, I'm not saying he needs to win it. Obviously, I hold on to I either want Big E or Keith Lee to win the Royal Rumble. But Damian Priest needs to be factored in something post-WrestleMania as far as being in the title picture. Now, I'm cool with Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. I love that idea. I love the idea of Karrion Kross versus Damian Priest. I don't like the idea of Damian Priest wasting his time fighting Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory. I don't want that. That fucking sucks. That is a waste of this guy's time and talent. You finally got somebody here. You got to get Johnny Gargano the fuck out the way. You got to get him the fuck out of the way. And I feel bad for Leon Ruff, because what was the purpose of putting him in this position? Because now he can't go anywhere but down. Unless he starts fighting for the Cruiserweight title. But then you have a guy, Kurt Stallion, on 205 Live, who is technically the number one contender, and nobody knows who the fuck he is. It's NXT problems. Now, Johnny Gargano does have opponents. You got Kushida, you got Bronson Reed, you got Dexter Lumis, you got, one of the members of Undisputed Era. You have some people lined up that you can have Johnny Gargano wrestle. It's actually more plentiful baby faces for him to wrestle than heels. That for Leon Ruff or Damian Priest to wrestle. But Johnny Gargano was completely unnecessary. We didn't need to go through that. All this just to put the title back on this guy. It really, what was the point? We could have just did this by having Austin Theory screw Leon Ruff. Whatever. That was so frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. So Timothy Thatcher versus Tommaso Ciampa was really good. Now this was a match, man, that it was brutal. It was pretty grueling. There was a lot of early grappling, which gave Thatcher the advantage because he's a grappler. I like that they were telling the story of Thatcher going after the throat, the surgically repaired throat and neck of Tommaso Ciampa. That I thought, they was doing some really good. They was doing some really good stuff with chokeholds and stuff like that. One of my favorite spots is when Tommaso Ciampa used the bulldog choke, which Jon Moxley uses. But if you look at the way Jon Moxley used it, and then look at the way Tommaso Ciampa used it, you could look like, okay, this is like a grown man using the finisher, and this is like a dude who is bigger, but is clearly not a worker. Tommaso Ciampa's bulldog choke looked like it hurts. And it looked like somebody was going to, it looked like he was trying to murder uh, Timothy Thatcher. And then they made it even better when he started, like, when Thatcher was reaching for the ropes and Tommaso Ciampa just started beating him across the head with his fist. I think that's what busted Thatcher's ear open, because he was just like rapping across his head with his knuckles. That was great shit. Uh, it was great shit. So Thatcher got caught up in the ropes. Tommaso Ciampa, landed some really hard chops, which were really good. Those things sounded really good too. Like they looked like they hurt. They sound like they hurt. And then from there, he hit Willow's Bell, which is a hanging DDT for the finish. Good match, really good match. And I hate that Thatcher kind of gets in these spots and always loses. But Tommaso Ciampa is not he's not a guy who can really feel bad about losing to. He's very legit as far as how he looks, how he presents himself, how he presents the character, his situations that he's involved in. There's no comedy, there's no bullshit. They look like fights. They feel like fights. They feel like adult. Even though he's short, he feel like an adult man involved in a combat situation. So this is very good. It was very hard hitting, good technical stuff. Great match. I would definitely be watching this again. I suggest people go watch it, unless you're not, if you think these guys are like boring or something. Not enough flips for you. If there's not enough flips for you, then I'm sorry to tell you. But this match was fun as hell for me. I enjoyed it. Let's see. Dexter Lumis, Cameron Grimes. Now, this match, it was what I thought it was. It wasn't a lot of comedy in the match. It was Grimes trying to be smart, which is a good thing, because the storyline going into this match was silly as shit. That Cameron Grimes is scared of the eyes of Dexter Lumis. I don't know why he would be scared of a man's eyes. That's just so silly. But Cameron Grimes brought his own strap to the match, which, of course, on the face of it sounds stupid. And then you see why later. Like, the referee was trying to tell him, oh, this is the official strap. This is the official strap. And Cameron Grimes was like, this strap or no strap at all. And so the referee was like, okay, whatever. So then he attacked Dexter Lumis before the match started, which means before they were both strapped on. And it was some really, kind of physical offense. He kind of just beat him up, threw him all over the place. Then, he launched Dexter Lumis over the barricade, which, that over the barricade stuff, since we know there's probably crash pads over there or something like that, and then the cameras don't follow. We'll get to the camera work at the end, one of my final thoughts, because I really have to go on about the cameras. But that was okay. All right. So, but they just basically was telling us the story that Lumis is indestructible, because after he got thrown over the barricade, he came right back. So they used the bag from the official strap. He dumped the strap and took the bag, which turns out to be almost the exact same bag that they used in the blindfold match, and he tied it around Dexter Lumis' head. So that's why he brought his own strap, so that he could keep that bag available and grab the bag and tie it around Dexter Lumis' head. And Dexter Lumis didn't have his vision taken away for long, but it was long enough to give Cameron Grimes some kind of response where he is, whipping him, got some good offense in. Grimes, he hit Lumis with a chair, which is very rare. Like, you very rarely see nine strap weapons in a strap match. So, there was some interesting stuff going on with this chair. The finish came with Dexter Lumis caught him in silence, which is a submission hold, and Cameron Grimes tapped out. Cameron Grimes was going for his finish, the cave-in, which is a running stomp. And instead, Dexter Lumis caught him in his submission. And it was all right. This match was all right. It wasn't, it wasn't much. It wasn't like my favorite match or anything like that. But it's skippable. Let's put it like that. Unless you're a fan of Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis, you can skip it. It's that simple. There was really, like, to me, this feud brought nothing. It adds nothing. I hope it's over. If you're going to have Cameron Grimes on TV, You could at least had him in a title picture. You could have had him as Leon Ruff's opponent or something like that. You could have done anything other than this. I get you have to have something for Dexter Lumis to do because he's not the kind of guy you make the champion. But I'm not feeling this feud. Even though the work between the two guys is fine and Grimes is fine as a worker, it was just too stupid for me. Like this feud was stupid. I hope it's over. So we hit this marathon War Games match. This match was like 45 minutes. There is almost never a reason for a match to be that long. Now, that being said, that's the one gripe I have about this match, is that it was very too long. The match had to be long anyway because it's a War Games match, and there's those staggered entrances, and there's so many people coming into the match. But this match was 45 minutes, and they did all kinds of stuff to each other, but it wasn't excessive. I didn't feel that way. In fact, the Undisputed Era wins, but they won with something very tame, which is like a flying knee from the top rope with a chair over the head. Like that was very, very tame for a finish compared to a lot of stuff they did. So let's go through the notes. Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne started the match for their two guys, and they did a lot of grappling, and their shit looks good. Like Kyle O'Reilly is, oh man, I remember I used to shit on Kyle O'Reilly a lot because I thought he was boring in Ring of Honor. I was just like, oh shit, Kyle O'Reilly, it's time to go to sleep. But it was like he wasn't given, or he kind of like fit the mold of Ring of Honor, where it was like humorless, all about your mat stuff. And, when he came to WWE, he still didn't have much of a sense of humor, but he found it more of a personality. And I think they woke up something within him where he's actually very different. And Pete Dunne, very good. He's very colorless. He's very humorless. But it fits, the sort of killer style that he has. And they did some really good grappling stuff. Only Lorcan came in second for McAfee's team. I like that they did, when they were doing the double teaming, Only Lorcan put Kyle O'Reilly in a surfboard, which allowed Only Lorcan to use those really hard slaps that he loved doing. And that's really what this match was about. It's about guys kicking hard, chopping hard, and occasionally hitting each other with a kendo stick or a chair or something like that. But it was a lot of cool strikes and a lot of, people using their moves creatively. So Bob Fish came in third for the Undisputed Era. Then Danny Burch came in Bob Fish came in second for Undisputed Era. Danny Burch came in third for Pat McAfee's team. He brought in some weapons. He brought in a cricket bat. He brought in 2 cricket bats, which, and we got to hear the Europeans talk about, cricket bats. Oh, they're heavier than baseball bats. He's like, well, they're still bats. So Roderick Strong came in. He came in as a house of fire, man. Roderick Strong, he's such a workhorse. He came in and, he started throwing hands and really getting in there. When Pat McAfee came in, he brought 4 tables, one for each member of the Undisputed Era. It basically kind of was trying to signify that he was going to put each one of them through a table. Strong got put through a table by Pat McAfee's moonsault. He was the only one that really kind of met the table, though. The other ones kind of really escaped their table fate. So the 3 members of Undisputed Era were kind of beat down when Adam Cole was brought in, and so Adam Cole had to deal with these 4 guys at the gate. And so he used a fire extinguisher from under the ring to separate them. And then everybody got in there and they started fighting and throwing hands. It was one of those mini brawls. There's so many times that these things just broke into a brawl. And then there was this beautiful shot of Pat McAfee in the second ring. And there's no space between, there's obviously just the ropes there, between him and Adam Cole. And the camera is going back and forth between the two of them. Only time that really all the cuts made sense. And Pat McAfee's face like, come on. And Adam Cole just wanted to get his hands on Pat McAfee so bad. So that was a good shot. It would have been better if they'd have, not cut everything up, but it was still a good shot. A little bit later, Kyle O'Reilly was the only one standing, and he challenged Pat McAfee to fight him. And he had a chair, and Pat McAfee's like, put the chair down, put the chair down. He's calling them all kind of bitches, and so you want to fight me, you want to hit me with a chair, come on. And as Pat McAfee, wants to take up this fight with Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole hit him in the back with a chair, which I thought was pretty. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, then Pat McAfee put later on. Pat McAfee put Adam Cole in the figure four, and then his partners were playing defense. So like the undisputed era is in the ring, the first ring. McAfee and Cole are alone in the second ring. The team McAfee is in between the rings, basically stopping them from trying to help it. Then Adam Cole reversed the figure four, and then the situation reversed where McAfee's team tried to get in the ring and Undisputed Era is like holding them back, which I thought was pretty cool. Pete Dunne, they tried to powerbomb Pete Dunne through a table. It didn't break, and I think he laughed or he smiled or something, and then they did something to put him through a table, about like a crossbody or something like that. Pat McAfee fell through a table when he tried to superplex a member of Undisputed Era, but they held on to the top rope. They did a beautiful spot where Lorcan, Birch, and Dunn were all lined up against the wall like a firing squad, and it just became like this flurry of strikes, and each one sort of with an exclamation point of a Adam Cole super kick. So they were like between the ropes and the cage, and somebody would run up and elbow them, and then somebody else would run up and do something else, and then Adam Cole would kick him, and that guy would fall down. And then they basically did it to all three guys, but Pat McAfee was like down at some point. As Pat McAfee was alone with Undisputed Era, they beat him to a pulp, and you would think that this would kind of build to the finish, but no, there was still more stuff to do, even after they cornered Pat McAfee and beat his ass. They hit McAfee's team, got up and saved him. And then we get into the point where after all of that stuff, Pat McAfee still did a swanton bomb from the top of the cage. And I was like, they are doing everything. They're doing way too much. Kyle O'Reilly got hit with the bitter end, which is Pete Dunne's finish, and he kicked out of it. I was like, that's when I said this match is too long. When that happened, I was like, this match is going on too long. They're doing too much. But there was still more to do. Bobby Fish tackled Danny Burch through a table. And the table was set up in the middle of the rings. Cole hit Pat McAfee with the Panama Sunrise, which is a flipping power driver. And he kicked out. I was like, this is asinine. This guy is not a wrestler. This guy's not a wrestler. He should just stay down. Adam Cole got the bitter end on a standing chair. So it was like a chair where you could sit in it. And he hooked him up, flipped him, and boom, his guts onto the top of the chair. And I was like, holy shit. And of course somebody saved him. And then we get later on, the next important spot was the finish, which is Kyle O'Reilly with a flying knee off the top of the rope onto Oney Lorcan, who had a chair placed on his face. And that was the finish. So the match was very physical. It was very, very physical. They did not use a lot of weapons, even though they did use weapons. It was mostly a lot of strikes, a lot of people doing moves, tables crunching all over the place. It was a fun match. I just felt like it was a little too long. It's one of those Triple H thinks long is good. Like these NXT main events that are 40 minutes, 45 minutes, not necessary. Very, very rarely should a match go that long. It was a good match. It was a fun match. It told a decent story about Pat McAfee not being a good wrestler, but basically him being a tough guy. He wasn't a threat offensively, but they couldn't put him away either. Like he kept slipping by. Like Pat McAfee didn't get beat, and you would think that would be the best way to end this thing, is for Adam Cole to get a pin on Pat McAfee and then end that feud. But with Oney getting beat, you kind of open the door, obviously, for Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish to wrestle Birch and Lorcan again. So that's fine. I'm cool with that as far as a match. But I really kind of wanted to cement this thing by having Adam Cole beat Pat McAfee. But I like that they didn't put Pat McAfee in there and make him look dominant. He basically was able to survive. I didn't like that he kicked out of some big moves. He kicked out some really big stuff. I didn't like that. But we didn't put Pat McAfee on the same playing field as Dunn, Birch, and Lorcan, who are like legit tough guys. So that was a good story that they told with there. As far as McAfee being the guy who was financing and the mastermind. Like he set up all he had to do was stay alive. All he had to do was prevent getting pinned. Kind of like the J.J. Dillon role in the Four Horsemen matches. Like Dillon was never like a physical threat. He was always kind of like the guy who all he had to do was not get beat. And he was also sometimes the guy who just got beat. Because I believe one of those War Games matches, J.J. Dillon did get pinned. It was a way of not being able to pin any of the other horsemen, which of course made sense. That's why I said Pat McAfee should have got beat here as a way to not pin Dunn, Birch, or Lorcan. But with O'Reilly pinning Oni, that opens up the tag team title match. So, okay, I accept it. It was a good match, just too long. So my final thoughts is that it was a very solid show. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a solid 8. I could do without Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes. I could do without all the ghost faces, the WCW stuff. I could do without that. But what really holds it down, and what really should make it a 7.5, is the absolutely nutty camera work. The constant fucking cuts of the camera. We couldn't get shit done. Like especially in the cage matches are bad enough. Like WWE's cameras are so fucking retarded. It's so stupid how they cut these matches. It's like cut, 2 seconds, cut. We don't know what kind of view we want. It's like, how about we pick a view where we can see both performers and we can see what they do, and we stay there for a while. Instead of constantly cutting the fucking camera, constantly switching the angles, and we don't need to do that. Could you watch a movie like that? Could you imagine watching like The Godfather and there's 100 fucking camera cuts in every scene? You would never. You'd be like, this shit is pissing me off. You stop watching it. It's like, this shit is so frustrating. It's the worst thing about WWE right now. Period. All three brands. Excessive fucking camera cuts. I don't know. I think I understand why. Because it's PG. They're trying to avoid certain things. But it's on the fucking network. Well, then again, it doesn't matter if it's on the network, if we're being honest. Because it's not about the USA or Fox wanting it to be PG. It's about WWE's sponsors wanting it to be PG. But the amount of camera cuts was fucking atrocious, man. It's hard. Like, if I've spent a lot of time watching like old wrestling, old WCW, old Mid-South, even though some old WWF. It's not like this with the cameras. It's not. It's so much easier to watch. Like, with these excessive camera cuts, it drives me fucking nuts. It drives me fucking crazy. So this show in ring should be an 8. But because of the fucking camera cuts and the fucking ghost faces, I say it's a 7. Definitely watch the War Games matches. Definitely watch Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher. I suggest you watch the North American title match if you're interested in it. It was a good match, except for the finish. Grimes and Loomis was okay. It wasn't offensive, but it wasn't. I just wasn't. I'm not feeling it. Like, I don't really like that feud, so I have a personal bias against it. But this was the first NXT in a long time where they only had like one title match. So I'm interested in what's going forward, because Karrion Kross, they show a vignette of Karrion Kross, the clocks and everything. So he'll be back soon. They said that there's going to be a New Year's Evil version of NXT, which I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's a theme. Hopefully it is a themed episode of NXT on January the 6th. Maybe that will be the show when Karrion Kross returns and wins the title back. Or maybe that'll be when Damian Priest wins the title, hopefully, or something. But New Year's Evil, January 6th, sounds fun. You know, Karrion Kross will be back soon. Sounds great. You know, there will be some new entries into NXT, hopefully, because they definitely need some new heels. They need some new talent. They need some new blood. They beaten some of these guys to a pulp. Like Timothy Thatcher, they beaten him to a pulp. You know, like they need new heels. They need fresh heels. They need people who don't have like allegations against them and stuff like that. They need some names, or at least one or two to push them through the WrestleMania season. You know, they need it. They need it pretty bad. But let me know what you guys thought of NXT War Games. I enjoyed it. If it wasn't for the cameras and some of the cheesy stuff that they were doing, I would have loved it even more. But let's say a 7.5. I think maybe saying it's a 7 is too much. I enjoyed everything that happened in the ring. It was just too much camera. But let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Like this video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.